concern. No, she's straight into it. Secondly, I want to just realised. Here we go. Secondly, I want to look at the compassion of Jesus. We've seen his power, but let's look at the compassion. Come back with me to the leper. We know from the centurion's servant that Jesus doesn't need to touch someone to heal them. He doesn't even have to be in the same room as them. Let's look at what he says. The leper says to him, Lord, if you choose, other translations will say, if you are willing, you can heal me, you can make me clean. And what does Jesus say? I'm willing. But he touches him. In a society where ritual uncleanliness is transmitted by touch, Jesus touches the leper. Did you get that? We don't get it. We don't get it. I heard a story on Friday night about touching an indescribable substance that comes out of the body from someone who is very little. Okay? We don't need any more details. We don't need any more details. But imagine a substance that you think is just absolutely, utterly revolting, right? Okay, close your eyes for a second. Don't worry, I'm not going to touch your fingers, put slimy on. Close your eyes for a second. Put your hands out. Okay? Imagine that the most revolting substance on the planet is in your hands. Mush it around a bit, right? Okay? It's all over your hands. It's all over your hands. What are you going to do? Are you going to touch your face with it? I know, you'll touch your sister's face. Your face. Your face. Are you going to touch your face? Are you then going to go eat? You're going to make a sandwich and hold the sandwich in your hands and eat? That's nothing compared to touching a leper. You can wash your hands. You can't wash leprosy away. Jesus touches the leper. He gives him dignity. He says, you're not an unclean beast. You're a human being created in the image of God, and I'm going to touch you. What about the centurion? The centurion comes to him and says, Lord, my servant is sick. Now, he doesn't ask Jesus to come to him. He's a centurion. Remember, that is a Roman soldier, leader of 100 soldiers. He is not just a Gentile. He's the enemy. And Jesus says, I will go to your house. Okay, back to the leper, not quite as bad as the leper, right? But to go into the house of a Gentile is to become unclean. And this man shows his faith by saying, I know you don't need to do that. You just speak and my servant will be clean. He'll be healed. But Jesus obviously knows he can do it, because then he says, your faith is just amazing. Your servant's been healed. Jesus knows he can do it remotely, but he still offers to go. Finally, we see Jesus wasn't even asked to help with Peter's mother-in-law. Don't assume any ulterior motive there. Jesus isn't even asked to help. As soon as he sees her on the bed with a fever, he touches her and heals her. His healings have attracted so much attention that he spends most of the night healing other people who need to be healed and drives out demons. Then we get this little summary from Matthew. Jesus did all this to fulfill what was spoken in Isaiah, which was our first reading, sorry. I'll come back to that, because I think that's key to what's going on here. Notice Matthew doesn't tell us what all this is. But I think it is all of the healings that have been going on. Back to the leper. Now Jesus is chased by people as well as having people need him. The people who chased Jesus can be quite distinguished. A teacher of the law, a scribe, comes forward and says that he wants to follow Jesus. And Jesus basically knocks him back, as he does with the second person. Now, is Jesus a prickly person? Did he get annoyed easily? I generally don't think so. I mean, he's got me as a follower, honestly. So here he is, he's getting away from all these people who wanted him to heal, to meet their needs. And then someone comes up to you and says, I want to follow you. And Jesus says this weird thing about foxes and birds. And then the next person gets his head bitten off, it seems. Let's look at these a little bit more. The scribe comes forward. I think Jesus looks at him and sees his request. Not, I want to follow you, which is what it seems to be at first. But I think he says, I want to be great like you. You know, like, dude, you're on the mountain and there are thousands of people listening to you. Show me what to do, because I'm in. And then he tells him exactly what he goes through. The Son of Man, that's Jesus speak from me, has nowhere to rest his head. He's homeless. I said, dude, look at the animals. The animals have got a home. I don't have a home. That's the greatness I have. And if you want to follow Jesus in that context, guess what? Welcome to homelessness. It's no good speaking out from the window of the Hilton, Jesus, can you speak up a little bit? I can't quite hear you. Like, where's the iPod, you know, the request I can send in? On a podcast she talks. Jesus didn't do that. Jesus tells this man, it's not easy following the ruler of the world. Because he's not the ruler that you're expecting. And the next fellow wants to bury his father. I've given him a great title. He's a zombie lover. It'll become apparent. He wants to bury his father. Now, that seems like a really reasonable request, right? I actually don't think the father's dead yet. Because there's all sorts of things that he would have to do. Like, he wouldn't be there with Jesus. He would be organising the funeral, he would be talking to the family, he'd be doing all those things. Rather, it seems to me that he's saying to Jesus, let me wait until my father dies and then I'll follow you. Now, in a society that respects the elderly, and certainly respects parents, and that's a commandment, it seems like a reasonable request, doesn't it? What Jesus says is a frank and almost disturbing statement. Let the dead bury the dead. I don't think he's talking about people who are currently dead, the zombies. I think he's more likely talking about those who are headed for death, those who follow death. That is, those who are spiritually dead. Jesus is saying there is nothing more important than following me. And today, you want to wait until your father dies so you can take care of him. Next week, it'll be something different. You know, one day, after my father's dead, I'll come and follow you. That doesn't cut it. I've heard people give all sorts of bizarre reasons why they don't want to follow Jesus today. Yeah, look, I know he died for sin. I know he's raised love. I know he's in charge, but man, I'm having too much fun. You know, one day when I get old, you know, and I stop partying or whatever it is, then I'll follow Jesus. Then I'll listen. Jesus says, no, that is not the way for me. See, comfort, family, money, all of these things fall before the claim of Jesus. Jesus claims us completely. He is to come first in our life, not second. Then we see Jesus and the suffering servant of Isaiah 53. Why does Matthew say Jesus did all these things to fulfill what was written about him in Isaiah? Now, friends, this passage from Isaiah was so strongly connected